So I ended the last lecture talking about Cyrus the Great. And again, he's very important. He's very important in the Bible as well. He's definitely celebrated in the Bible for what he does for the Jewish people. So he's someone to take note of. Just to kind of show you his legacy, it goes even into India. We have India released a stamp on the Charter of Cyrus in 1971. So what is it about this charter that they're celebrating? So here's what this charter, or the cylinder of Cyrus, and his method of conquest. He says here at the top, example, when I entered Babylon as a friend, and when I established the seat of the government in the palace of the ruler under jubilation and rejoicing, Marduk, the great lord, the magnanimous inhabitants of Babylon. It's kind of choppy because there was parts of it missing, right? You'll see. But I was daily endeavoring to worship him. My numerous troops walked around in Babylon. In peace, I did not allow anybody to terrorize any place in Sumer and Akkad. I strove for peace in Babylon and in all his other sacred cities. May all the gods whom I have resettled in their sacred cities ask daily Bel and Nebo for a long life and for me, and may they recommend me to him, to Marduk, my lord. They may say this: Cyrus, the king who worships you, and Cambyses his son, all of them I settled in a peaceful place, ducks and doves I endeavored to fortify, repair their dwelling places. So here he's basically saying he comes to the people of Babylon and even invokes their god, and acts as if he's restoring not just their peace but also their worship, and hence putting himself not as a foreign conqueror but an indigenous liberator, almost as if, in tone, right? Okay, this is the way he's projecting himself. Now, having said that, and knowing that he helped the Jews return to Palestine and sponsored the temple of Yahweh priests in ancient Israel, what was it in it? What was in it for Cyrus? I mean, okay, this is very noble, but you don't just go conquer other cultures just to try to be the nice guy, right? So yes, he was, but he also had some benefits that could come out of this for his own rule. It helped assimilate the Phoenician and Palestinian remnants of the former Babylonian Empire. Okay, so in other words, in that part of the region, he was able to bring them in as non-resistant occupied peoples. The rebuilding of the temple, for example, for the Jews was followed by constructions of fortifications to protect the western regions of his empire from Egypt. So perhaps we could say that ancient Israel was a buffer zone that he had for Persia. So again, he really did have a legacy of religious toleration, but there was also an element of practicality in terms of how he was stabilizing and protecting his own empire and his own rule. Okay, so just thought to point that out. All right, moving along. It's always great when we can start integrating more women into the history, because obviously women, as 50% of the population, are doing quite a bit, right? Here we have it in 530 BCE. Cyrus was overextending himself, and a queen. She has different ways that her names can be pronounced. It could be Tamris, or in Persian, Tam Reish, of the Masjedi, knocked him off his horse and severed his head. And so here a very powerful ruler was taken down by a female ruler. In Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, she is a national heroine, and many girls are named after her. There's a book of poetry by an Uzbek poet called the sayings of Tamera's. So she's celebrated in a certain part of a world that again is very not on the radar of a lot of people in the United States, for example, but very much a part of the history. Tell the story of Persia and of that part of the world. Okay, so Persia after Cyrus the Great. His son invades Egypt, taking 3 years to control it. Back in Persia, there was a revolt. He crushed, and he marries a widow, the daughter of Cyrus. Squashes revolt and takes power, expands the Persian Empire. Sorry. To reiterate, Cambyses, was Cyrus's son. He invades Egypt, goes back, stops an uprising in Persia. Next, we have Darius, and Darius is going to marry Cambyses' widow and a daughter of Cyrus. Okay, so that was a little bit confusing. He squashes revolt and takes power and expands the Persian Empire. Sorry, that was a little bit confusing to say the least. So essentially, we have the Persian Empire brought into 20 provinces by satraps. And as we saw with other nations that are trying to rule large territories, they have to find ways to kind of disseminate power and to hold on to large territories. And we saw that they had a lot of territory. Okay. So what's the legacy of the Persian Empire? Mesopotamia influenced Persian governance. So again, we go back to, we had a discussion of Mesopotamia and learned a lot about them before, so we can get a visualization there. A set of laws that were established, and they connected many cultures that were separated by thousands of miles. Okay. And what we'll learn as we go into Greece as well is that the conflict also that Persia is going to have with Greece is going to set a kind of motif and imagery of East versus West that comes out of the Greco-Roman world into modern Europe as well. And Persia is going to kind of symbolize often in the Western thinkers the kind of quintessential opposite of enlightened Europe in terms of power. It's going to be kind of seen as the Asiatic despotism of the East is going to be looked at through these conflicts, actually, that we see back in with Persia and Greece. In any case, let's talk a little bit more about Persian society and culture. I mean, obviously, rugs. Everybody knows Persian rugs, as the comedian mentioned in one of the other clips I had. But merchants traveled along the Royal and Silk Road. As we know from China, we discussed the Silk Road. That relative independence for women, much better place for them. Many elaborate festivals. They had a love of fine clothes and jewelries and architecture. That's kind of in that depiction we had in that movie 300. And again, as you remember, I was talking about, and you'll hear more later when we talk about Greece, that the Greeks saw Persians as being kind of effeminate, girly guys with jewelry and soft, fine clothes, liking that kind of stuff. After 521 BCE, Zoroastrianism was strongly supported by Persian emperors. So what is Zoroastrianism? That is what I'm going to go into to discuss in the next lecture.